everyone, and welcome to the Dill Pickle Movie Network. Today we're taking a little bit of a break from movies, and we're going to be talking about TV, specifically reality TV. That's right, because this week it is the premiere of Big Brother 23. That's right, 23 seasons of Big Brother. If you know me well, personally, or if you've just paid attention to my social media, you know that I love reality TV, and I love to analyze the strategy, the social dynamics, all the competitions. Big Brother airs every summer, so of course it's summertime, which means it's time for a new season of Big Brother. If you're not a fan of Big Brother, fret not, because I'm going to explain what Big Brother is, what the rules of the game are, how the very, very basic premise of how the show works. But if you do like Big Brother, please comment down below in the comments and just let me know what you think of this cast, what are your predictions for this week and all the weeks going forward. So the basic premise of Big Brother is 16 people locked in a house together. It's almost like Survivor, except you get the comforts of food, bedding, showering. You know, you get all the pleasures that you are severely missing on an island like in Survivor. The competitions range from very physical challenges like holding on to things for a long period of time, trying not to fall off. There are some very puzzle forward challenges where you have to kind of just like pick up different pieces and try to put them all together. Then you have a lot of mental challenges where they'll ask questions and you have to guess either true or false, and they eliminate people that way. So there's very different ways in which you can win a competition. It's not just catered to the people with all the muscles, or not catered to all the people with all the brains. It is a very wide array of challenges, and that's why I really like Big Brother. Whoever wins the first challenge of the week becomes the HOH, the head of the household, and that HOH then has to nominate 2 people for eviction. Eviction is basically voting people off. The HOH, those 2 people, and then 3 other random people selected by random draw compete in the Power of Veto competition. The Power of Veto is exactly what veto means. You're going to veto one of the nominations. You don't have to veto a nomination, but if you win the Power of Veto, you have the ability to remove one person from the block. So if one of the 2 people from the block wins, they can take themselves off the block and they are safe for the rest of the week. If anyone is taken off the block, the HOH then has to put someone up in their place. The final 2 people sitting on the block at the end of the week are who the rest of the house votes to evict. And the person with the most votes is sadly out of the competition. Unless, of course, there's a battle back where they can fight their way back through. But to keep it simple, once you're voted out, you're out of the house. You get to enjoy your life or time in the jury house if you make it far enough. When there are about 11 people left, when you get voted off, you get sent instead to a jury house. Then at the very end of the season, when there are 2 finalists left in the game, the rest of the jury that was sent out earlier from 11th to 3rd place will then come together and vote for the winner between the final 2 as to who they think deserves to win Big Brother. So it's a very complex game where the people you vote out eventually have to come back and vote for a winner. So you have to make sure there's no bad blood, because that could really cost you the $500,000. The winner, as I just said, wins $500,000, which is a really, really amazing prize. And then, of course, America will then honor a favorite house guest, the person they thought played the most enjoyable game, or the person they just respect the most at the end of the season, and they get another small little cash prize at the end as well. It's a very fun game. Of course, it starts and ends with the cast. The cast is the most important part of any season, because the cast can really drag down a season, as we've seen with some seasons, especially recent seasons in the past, or a cast can really boost a season, could really give us some really amazing moments, create some great house divides, give us some great drama, but also give us some great strategy, some great human moments. Without further ado, it's time to talk about this cast. I will give my thoughts on each player very briefly, and I decided to break it into 4 categories. I decided to break it into the early boots, which are the people that I really don't think are going to really make it too far into the game. Then the mid-season boots, the people that might get taken out around the middle of the season because maybe they're a big threat, or maybe they just don't have that alliance that they're really, really strong with, and maybe they just get brushed aside. Then the hopefuls, the people that I really like, but I don't know if they're going to be serious game players, but I want to see them be good game players, and I think they could make it pretty deep in the season if they really come up with a great game plan. And then, of course, the contenders. Those are the people that I think will have a really serious shot at winning. I have 4 people in each category, so let's go. Let's start at the bottom with the early boots. The first person I have in the early boots in my 16th place spot, this is the person I think is going to be eliminated first, and that is Brent. Brent is a 28-year-old flight attendant from Rhode Island. The thing with Brent, just right off the bat from his picture, you can tell he gives off kind of that used car salesman vibe. He's got that charming smile, but here's the thing. With a cast of superfans, and Big Brother has been saying that this is a cast of people who are really diehard fans of the show. Whether that's really true, I don't know. But there are a lot of fans, and they will see Brent, and I think they're going to know off the bat that Brent is someone who's going to try to charm his way to the end. He's going to try to play the flirt game. The problem with Brent, though, is I think he acknowledges his charm a little too much. He says in his bio, my charm is powerful. He just comes across very cocky. He says he loves a good backdoor, especially when people deserve it. A backdoor is basically when you send someone home who wasn't expecting it. It's a blindside, basically, if you're talking in Survivor terms. I just don't know if Brent is going to be so confident and so cocky that he might end up being someone who gets booted right off the bat just for being that type of presence in the house. And I think Brent could go home like David did in Big Brother 15, like Braden did in Big Brother 11, people who you would think would probably go a long way just because they seem like they're going to be good in challenges. You think they're going to have a lot of good friendships and alliances. But if someone on the other side of the house, someone who's not aligned with Brent, gets the power, I could see Brent being an early target. Next, in my 15th spot, I have Sarah. Sarah is a 27-year-old forensic scientist, and I really like Sarah. I think I'd want to be friends with Sarah. I think everyone in America is going to really, really like Sarah. She almost gives me Nicole Anthony vibes. Nicole Anthony was a fan favorite from a few years ago. The thing with Nicole, though, is that Nicole did struggle earlier on, and she luckily had enough relationships to really carry her through the beginning of the game. So then the whole midway point of the game, she was pretty much cruising to the end because she had such great social bonds. But the thing with Sarah is I just don't know how quickly she'll be able to develop those bonds with people that you need in Big Brother, especially if some of the bigger, stronger, buffier guys win these first few HOHs. I don't know if Sarah's going to be buddy-buddy with all like the big muscular jocks. Sarah says her favorite Big Brother duo of all time is Frank and Bridget, which, if you watch their season, that's kind of a weird choice just because Frank went out pretty early. Bridget was memorable, but not really the most memorable on a season with pretty memorable people. I could see her playing like a Bridget, but again, I just feel like she's even more of an offbeat, quirky personality, and I really love those offbeat, quirky people if they can find their footing in a game, and I just feel like Sarah's just going to emerge as someone who's just kind of floating in the middle of the deep end and doesn't really know who to cling to. The thing with Sarah, though, that I think really puts her at the bottom for me is the fact that she is so smart, and she's very clearly smart. You know, you look at her and you see that she's a forensic scientist. Like, you know she is so smart that, you know, if you're not going to connect with her right off the bat, if she's not in your alliance and you have a shot to take her out early in the game, you take her out because a lot of the competitions are mental. A lot of them are puzzles. A lot of them require brain power. And Sarah is clearly one of the most obviously smart people. If you just look at this cast, just in general, you look at Sarah and you say, yep, she's pretty smart. So I see her going home pretty early. In 14th place, I have Tiffany. She's a 40-year-old phlebotomist? I don't know what that is. From Detroit, Michigan. I like Tiffany. She seems like she has a really nice, warm presence, a great smile. But the problem is, she's one of the older contestants. I believe she is the oldest contestant in the house. And I really love this diversity of race in this cast, but I don't love the diversity of age. I think most of this cast is on the younger end, and someone like Tiffany is going to have a really tough time, I think, fitting in with some of the younger people. Her answers that she gave in her bio were very basic. She just said, you know, I want to keep my mouth shut, I want to just kind of sit back and observe, which is nice, but, you know, I feel like that's kind of everyone's strategy at first, is just kind of lay low and just take in the whole house and see how you can maneuver. She has a really strong attachment to her son, which I think is going to get a lot of viewers on her side, but I really don't know if she survives the first few weeks just because she seems like she's going to just be more of an outcast in the house. And I hope she's not. You know, this is just very first impressions, but judging by the history of Big Brother, I worry that because of her age, she's going to stick out like a sore thumb. In 13th, I have Brittany, spelled like Martini. She is a 24-year-old kindergarten teacher. And at first, when I saw her picture and I read what she does, you know, I was like, oh my God, people are going to love Brittany. People are going to just, you know, be best friends with Brittany. And in her bio, she talks about how she is loyal to a fault. She is the most loyal friend you'll ever have, which is really, really great to have in Big Brother. But again, if you're not in her alliance and she is so loyal to her people and she's not willing to budge and maneuver and make alliances with a lot of different people, she could end up being taken out because of that. We've seen in the past when there's two separate alliances and people are not willing to budge from their alliance and the other alliance gets power, they just pick off the other alliance. And I'm worried that Brittany will make some really tight bonds, but will not be able to break free from those bonds and explore other relationships, and that's going to hurt her in this game. I also think in her videos, In some of the videos that Big Brother has posted, I think she talks a little too much. She tends to ramble. She really likes to over-explain her answers, and I do worry that she might have a problem that I would have if I went into Big Brother house of just trying to over-explain yourself and just talk too much. And I'm worried if Brittany talks too much, she's very clearly smart, she's very clearly athletic, and she is loyal to a fault, I'm worried that might work against her. So now moving on to the people I consider the mid-season boots. These are the people I could see going around the mid-season point, either because they just don't fit into an alliance or because they are a big threat. And starting off at number 12, I have Travis. Travis is a 22-year-old technology sales consultant from Honolulu, Hawaii. Travis off the bat gives a very comforting vibe. He's from Hawaii, he seems like a cool dude to hang out with, but when you see him right off the bat, like I said with Brent, he comes across as a threat. He comes across as someone who is going to charm his way to the end, and if you are not on Travis's side, you are going to want to get Travis out as soon as possible. Travis is someone who might even develop a romantic relationship with someone in the house because he is a good-looking young guy. I'm worried. I think a lot of people are going to catch on to this and want to get him out as soon as possible. He says his favorite duo of all time is Brent and Winston. I could see him going out exactly like Winston did right before the jury phase of the game. He's going to go right home at the end of the pre-jury. That is my big prediction of the season. I just don't know if he will fare any better than Winston did on his season, just because he just seems like that bro that could, if he gets too far in the game, could end up running away with it. And I think this group of players is savvy enough to not let that happen. At number 11, I sadly have Frenchie. Frenchie is a 34-year-old farmer, and I think like Tiffany, his big issue is just that he's a little bit older than everyone else. He comes across as this older guy, this super humble guy, almost like a Donnie or a Cliff from seasons past. I do think Frenchie will be someone America really likes, but I just don't know how he'll fit in with this group of contestants, especially because they all are younger. The problem with Frenchie especially is that he makes it very known that he is a super duper super fan. He's not just a super big fan of the game, he is a die-hard fan of the game. He references things like Brittany Haynes and Rachel Riley's hair extensions in his bio, and they're great references that I think a lot of people at home are going to love and be like, wow, this guy is just like us, we're rooting for him. But at the same time, if you make it known to everyone else how much of a super fan you are, that's already going to put a target on your back. The thing is, it is his dream to play this game, and I don't see them getting rid of him right away, because who wants to send home this guy who's waited his whole life to play this game and is just a super nice, passionate guy about Big Brother? You're not going to take him out right away, but I do see him going around the jury phase. I see him being one of the first members of the jury. Let him get that well-rounded Big Brother experience. Let him experience the first few weeks of the game, get him to the jury, and then cut him there. Let him have the rest of his fun in the jury house. I think that is where Frenchie will end up. At number 10, I have Christian. Christian is a 23-year-old general contractor assistant from Connecticut. Christian, it's interesting. I don't really get any sort of bad vibes from Christian. The problem is he just doesn't really blow me away. He's not one of the most intriguing contestants of this group. He just seems very normal. And I think Christian could just kind of fade into the middle, kind of fade into the background this season, and that's not a bad thing, but I don't see him being the strongest person. He gives very minimal and basic answers in his bio. One of the big red flags is that he said his favorite moment of all time is when Jeff used the coup d'etat to backdoor Jessica. If you are a fan of the game, you know that Jeff used the coup d'etat to backdoor Jesse, but Jesse is not Jessica. So I'm worried maybe he's just researching stuff to put in his bio. Maybe he's just not a big fan of the game. He just appears a little bit clueless, and I'm just worried that he'll just kind of end up fading into the midway point of the game. I didn't really know where to put him in this whole list, so I put him at number 10, surviving a few weeks, but not really going deep into the game. I don't really know where to put Christian, but that's where I'm going to put him. At number 9, I have Hannah. Hannah is a 21-year-old grad student. She's the youngest person on this season, which already gave me a little bit of a red flag, but I do think because this cast is younger, I think she will be able to fit in. The problem is she wants to play it like a villain. She wants to be ruthless. She wants to backstab people, and I worry if she's going to come out the gate too strong, she might be in for a little bit of a rude awakening. That being said, I do think she is very likable. She is young, so people are going to want to embrace her as almost like a little sister, and I think she could, if she lays low enough, she could make it far in this game. I'm just worried that she's going to end up having the moment where she just snaps and she wants to just start taking out the threats one by one, and it's just going to be too early, and she's going to be sent out at the midway point. She says two of her favorite players are Davon and Bailey, and I feel like Davon and Bailey are both kind of in that category of people who just started playing the game too hard too early, and I just worry Hannah will end up doing the same. Now we get to my hopefuls. These are the 4 people that I'm hopeful will make a mark on the game. I like them a lot. I think they're going to be contenders for America's favorite house guest, but I don't necessarily know if they're going to go all the way. At number 8, I have Derek X. We have 2 Dereks. This is Derek X. He is a 24-year-old startup founder from New York. New York. Yes, New York. Represent. I already like Derek. He seems very, very calm, quiet, cool, collected, but my worry is because he does seem a little stiff, he might come across too game body. And if you don't know what game body is, it's really someone who just kind of goes in there, kind of follows the rules of the strategy, kind of approaches it a very strategy forward game, puts his strategy before his social skills. And I think Big Brother, it's important to have strategy, but the most important thing is the social game. And I just don't know if he's going to have the most social game. I just feel like he comes across a little bit too much from an analytical and logical angle that people are going to have a little bit of a tough time relating to him. But I do think he's likable enough and quiet enough that he could slide under the radar and make it to final 8, 7, somewhere around there. At number 7, I have Azah. She is a 30-year-old sales operations director. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but she is clearly a super fan. Her bio is really, really exciting. She mentions June and Allison, a season 4 team up, which I really love. She mentions Keisha's birthday, probably the best moment of all time if you're a serious Big Brother fan. But the one thing I was a little hesitant with her bio was that she really wants to take out the power players. She says no showmances, which I agree. I would never want to get into a showmance in Big Brother. I would also want to take out the power players, but when you're so set on doing that from the beginning, I'm worried that that could come back to bite you. Just like I said with Hannah, I'm worried Azah might start playing the game a little too strong, a little too early. The thing, though, is that she seems to be much more of a fan. She seems a little bit more self-aware than someone like Hannah, whereas I think she can wait a little longer to make those big moves. I think she will be able to make it pretty far in the game. I hope she makes it far in the game because I really like her. She's one of my favorite people going into the season. It's just going to be a matter of how she fits in, what alliance she gets, and when she decides to make those big moves against the big power players. If she is that first HOH, she could take out someone like Brent, like Travis, really make her mark and establish her alliance. But if she's not one of the first HOHs and she ends up on the outside, she's really going to have to keep calm before she can start, going for the big dogs. So I do like her chances, though, of going pretty far in the game. I'm not putting her in my contenders pile yet, but she's one of the hopefuls for sure. At number 6, I have Whitney. Whitney is a 30-year-old makeup artist. She is also a mom, and she talks about her kids, and I think she's going to be someone who's very endearing to the audience. She comes across as super likable, super easy to get along with, but she also comes off as someone who could really win challenges. Anyone who has a shot at being the first HOH is already going to be higher on my list than most of the other people, because if she can win that first HOH, she can build a good alliance early on and really carry herself through to the end, just based on having a strong alliance. The thing is, Whitney has kids. She'll be able to use that to really create great bonds, maybe with someone like Tiffany, who is also a mother, but Tiffany is much older and she comes across much older, but I think Whitney can still fit into the younger crowd. I think Whitney is going to be a very versatile player. I think she gives me Janelle vibes, and I don't want to say that lightly because Janelle is an icon in Big Brother, but I do think I get Janelle vibes from Whitney. I think she just has a very good, focused approach to this game. She says that she doesn't really have a strategy. She wants to see who the group of people she's playing with are first. And I think that's a great strategy. You can't have a predetermined strategy going into a game where you know nothing about the other players. She could be the only one with 15 returning players, and then her strategy completely changes. So I definitely agree with her in the fact that you really can't make a strategy until you see the cast, and I think that is going to really work for Whitney. I think she's going to be very adaptable. My worry is that she is going to be so strong that she ends up being a threat and people are going to want to take her out around 6th place. At number 5, I have Claire. Claire is a 25-year-old AI technical architect, and the thing with Claire is that she came into the game very late. She's a last-minute replacement for Christy, who had to drop out due to testing positive for COVID, unfortunately, but I think Claire, she comes across as someone who really knows strategy. She says she works in a male-dominated industry where she's had to blend in. I think that's really, really good for her game. She's going to be able to appease some of the bigger threats, but I think she's also going to be able to relate to some of the underdogs, some of the offbeats, some of the outcasts like Sarah or like Tiffany. I think she's going to be able to really relate to everyone. The problem is she's very smart, and I just hope she can lay low enough that she doesn't emerge as too big of a threat, because I really think she knows her stuff. She's obviously a clear super fan. A lot of people in the fan community know her because she is such a big super fan. She's done stuff like Sequester. She runs, fan Big Brother and Survivor games. So I think she's going to be someone the fans really like, and they can really see themselves in her shoes. I'm putting her right outside the contenders just because she was a last-minute addition to the cast. She might be a little bit more frazzled than some of the other players. So as long as she can go in there, kind of take a breath, and just get herself situated, I think she'll be great. But, there's always that worry that because you were added to the cast last minute that you might have a little bit of jitters and frazzledness that the other contestants now have kind of eased out of. So that's my only hesitancy with Claire. Now we're getting to my contenders. These are the 4 people that I truly think can win the game and may win the game. At number 4, I have Xavier. And Xavier is someone off the bat. He is a 27-year-old attorney. He is someone I wanted to pick as my winner pick, but he is just so strong. You see him and he's going to be tough in challenges. He's pretty sociable. He's smart. He just seems like a very well-rounded player, but he is a very obviously well-rounded player. The thing is, though, in his interviews, he's very charming. He's very likable. So despite being this bigger, stronger presence, I think a lot of people are going to be attracted to working with him. And the thing is, if he can win a bunch of challenges early on and establish a strong alliance, he could carry himself through all the way to the final 4. Now, I put him at number 4 because eventually, at the end, you have to start realizing who the bigger threats are. If he doesn't win that final 5, final 4 HOH, I see them taking him out then, because you can't let this guy get to the end. If you let Xavier get to the final 3, there's a good chance he wins the final HOH and a good chance he wins the whole game. So I think you have to take Xavier out around 5th or 4th place, because he will beat you in the end. He's very well spoken. He's very likable just off the bat. And I do think he is probably most people's winner pick, because he is just this perfect blend of social, strategic, and athletic. But I do think this group is smart enough that they will bring him far, because he's going to be someone people are going to want to work with, but they will cut him at the very end just because he is so strong. At number 3, I have Derek F., who is actually the son of Joe Frazier, the boxer. Derek F. is a 29-year-old safety officer from Philadelphia. I really like Derek F. He seems like this warm, cuddly teddy bear. He's a little sassy. The things Derek F. has been saying in his videos are very funny, but I think if it was a different person, it might have come across as off-putting to some, but I think because it's Derek F. and he gives off such a warm, cuddly teddy bear persona, I think it's actually going to work. I think people are going to be really charmed by his humor and by his sarcasm, by his wit. He mentions he loves the moments with Evil Dick and Jen in Big Brother 8. Evil Dick is one of the most polarizing players of all time, and I think Derek F. could be a villain of the season, but do it with a smile on his face to where people know he's a villain, but also still want to work with him because he is funny and he's fun to be around. He's just one of the most intriguing contestants of this season that I don't really know what to do with. But the thing with Derek is he says he wants to kind of float around. He wants to have everyone else do the dirty work, and he kind of just wants to breeze by. And I think that's a good strategy for Derek. I think as long as he is nice enough to the people he's working with and humorous enough, people will want to keep him around. And the thing is, he says he doesn't want to win a lot of challenges, which is smart, because if you're not winning a lot of challenges, why should people want to take you out right away when they could take out someone who is winning a lot of challenges? So I think if he plays the floater game, he could play it very well. The problem with Derek, though, is while he might be this likable guy who can float to the end, when you get to Final 3, you have to take him out because he is so likable. It reminds me of James in Big Brother 18, someone who really didn't win a ton of competitions, just kind of laid low and was everyone's best friend, and then at the end they cut him because he was very likable. He could have won. Same with JC a few seasons later in Big Brother 20. I think he could be one of those people who's just so charming, everyone loves him, but then at the very end it's just, well, we got to send you home, otherwise you'll beat us. These next 2 players are the 2 that I'm really putting a lot of stock in to possibly win. Number 2, I have Alyssa. Alyssa is a 24-year-old swimwear designer, and right off the bat, a lot of people are going to say, oh, she's just going to get in a show match, she's just going to be, a boring person who's just there to look for love, to, find that person to play the flirt game. And yes, Alyssa should play the flirt game. She's very beautiful, and she's going to be able to use that flirt game to her advantage. The thing with Alyssa, though, is that she is a very big super fan. She says she's watched religiously since she was 11 years old. She's applied for the show so many times. She mentions how she wants to have a good bond with whoever the first HOH is, or she wants to win the first HOH because the first HOH has a lot of power. And the fact that Alyssa knows that, and knows that this is the modern strategy era of Big Brother where you have to win this first HOH to make a big solid alliance. Like, Alyssa acknowledges that, she knows that, she just seems like she knows the game better than most would expect her to, and I think that's what's going to work for Alyssa. The people that don't really know the game that well, she'll be able to charm, she'll be able to flirt with, she'll be able to get on their side, and then the people who are very strategic, she'll be able to say, hey, I know what's going on, I need an alliance, let's team up. I think she's going to have both ends of the spectrum in her pocket. I think she's going to be able to appeal to almost everyone in some way, shape, or form, and I really like that. She admires Jessica from Big Brother 19, and I could see her playing a very Jessica game. Jessica was someone who very much knew what was going on with the house, saw that everyone was following the same person, and wanted to take them out. Unfortunately for Jessica, she just never got the power to do something about it, just because she was outnumbered for so long. But the thing with Alyssa is if she can acknowledge who the power players are, she seems like someone who will be able to form a solid alliance to go after those power players, but not do it in a very broad and blatant way. I think she can do some really good under the radar damage to some of these bigger power players. Is she going to get into showmance? She might, but again, we've seen showmances work out for a lot of people in the past. Jeff and Jordan won the game. Mickey and Holly. Mickey won the game, Holly got second place. So showmances aren't bad as long as you can use that showmance to then make other relationships with other people in the house. So I think Alyssa has a really good shot. I see her maybe being the Parvati of Big Brother. Parvati is my favorite player on Survivor, and because she could use that flirt game to her advantage, but she wasn't just someone who flirted. She was someone who really had good strategic chops, knew when to cut people that were powerful, when to align herself with certain people, and I think Alyssa could very well do the same thing. I wouldn't count her out. And my number one pick is Kyland. Kyland is a 29-year-old account executive from California. I really like Kyland. I think he is someone who is not the most strategic, he's not the most athletic, he is not the most social, but he is still very athletic, very strategic, and very social. I really think he has all the makings to be a really good player. I loved reading his bios. He says in his bio he's a huge movie fan, which, I mean, he's already got my vote because I'm such a huge movie fan. He's someone that I really relate to. He says that he's in it more for the game than the money. Love to hear that. He's a huge family man. Love to hear that. He wants to emulate his game after Dan, Derek, Cody, and Casey. I couldn't find 4 better players to emulate your game after. He especially notes Casey in the fact that he wants to restrain himself until the end. He really wants to start winning a lot toward the end, but wants to play it safe in the beginning. And I think that's good. I think he has a clear strategy that is not going to be hard to pull off. You know, lay low in the beginning, emerge as a bigger threat toward the end. I think Kyland is going to know really when to amp up his gameplay. I think last season a lot of people were hoping Ian would do the same thing, where he would lay low and then emerge as a bigger threat. And I think he just never really got the chance to emerge because everyone saw him as a big threat because he was already a winner. Whereas Kyland, I think, can lay low, make good bonds, and then strike when no one's looking. And I think Kyland is someone who's going to be dangerous because he comes out with this beautiful smile. Everyone's going to be charmed by him, but he's not going to be someone who like Brent or like Travis, who's very clearly playing the flirty game. He just has a very warm, welcoming, friend-like smile. Everyone's going to want to be your friend, and I think that's really important in this game. I think Kyland is a super big threat to win this game, and I would not be surprised if he wins. I hope he wins. You know, my reads are probably way off, but that is who I'm predicting as my winner pick for this season. That was a lot. There were a lot of players to talk about, but as the weeks go on, obviously we'll have less and less to talk about because the numbers will be dwindling down. But let me just recap from bottom to top my ranking as to who I think will come in last or come in first on this season. At 16, I have Brent. 15, I have Sarah. 14, I have Tiffany. 13, I have Brittany. 12, I have Travis. 11, I have Frenchie. 10, I have Christian. 9, I have Hannah. 8, I have Derek X. 7, I have Azah. 6, I have Whitney. 5, I have Claire. 4, I have Xavier. 3, I have Derek F. In second place, I have Alyssa. And in first place, and my winner pick for the season, I have Kyland. As to who I think is going to win the first HOH, I think Travis has a good shot because he is so athletic. I think Xavier has a good shot because he's so athletic. I think Whitney has a shot because she's so athletic. And then I also put Alyssa in that category just because Alyssa, she says she really wants to try to win the first HOH because she knows how important that is to the modern game of Big Brother. So I think those are my 4 that I think have the best shot of winning the HOH. I'm going to go on a limb and say I think Xavier will win the first HOH. I just think he's going to be the one to win this first HOH, get a really strong alliance together, and we'll see how that goes from there. I am so excited to be talking Big Brother on this channel. I've loved Big Brother since season 11 when I watched it for the first time with Jeff and Jordan, with Ronnie and Russell and Jesse and the coup d'etat. It was such a great season. I've loved it ever since. I went back and watched all the old seasons. I am such a fan. I hope to play it someday, but until then, I will be talking about it here on the channel. Thank you so much for watching.